Good morning, everyone. Today is the August 16 and 2022, and let's start our weekly sync up. So David, Daniel, Peter, and yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I can start. Yes, I kind of wanted to start a little bit to talk about the CRI stats cap and kind of have some questions there. So for background, I have like a intern who'll be kind of starting working on this. I think it's called Daniel. Maybe you can introduce yourself. He's going to be kind of spending his summer working on this cap. Daniel, maybe you can just introduce yourself. People know who you are.
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Daniel. David's intern right now. I'm working on this cap and on Node runtime. Currently based out of Madison, Wisconsin. A rising senior in college. Yeah, enjoying working on this so far.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, so I guess one of the things we wanted to bring to talk about is when we were kind of looking through the cap, the current state of the cap right now is that we have the current CRI stats supporting the summary API, but we are kind of a little bit blocked right now because we have the rest of the C advisor metrics in the Prometheus format, and then that's not currently supported by CRI, so like we need to find some alternative source for those metrics. So that's kind of the problem we're trying to solve right now. And so in the cap, the current proposal that we have is that we will collect those metrics by the CRI, and the CRI will expose a Prometheus endpoint. And that's kind of the current plan in the cap. And then the way it works right now is that users who are using these metrics call the kubelet HTTP server to get those metrics. So one idea that we had was maybe to proxy the that endpoint to the CRI. So basically you would call the kubelet HTTP API, and then it would kind of redirect you to the CRI Prometheus endpoint. So that's kind of the first idea that we had. And I've been thinking a little bit more about this and maybe chatting with Peter and Daniel a little bit. And I have a little bit kind of concerns about that idea in the sense that, especially on the containerd side, containerd already has a Prometheus endpoint. And so it probably doesn't make sense to add another Prometheus endpoint. The problem with the current Prometheus endpoint is that the metrics format is kind of different than the C advisor metrics format. So it's not like a drop-in replacement for users, and we want it to be a drop-in replacement. So one of the things I've been thinking to propose instead is perhaps to add the rest of the metrics that are kind of currently missing in the CRI. And so add those new metric fields in the CRI, and then have kubelet directly basically convert those metrics to Prometheus format. So the benefit there is that this would be done once by the kubelet instead of by both of the container runtimes. So that's kind of what we were been thinking, and I kind of wanted to get people's thoughts on that proposal. Yeah, maybe Peter, you can chat as well. We chat with you about this as well offline.
I have one naive question. When we talk about stats, we still only focus on the container stats, right? So we still have some like the rely on, definitely we have the missing stats, like the machine node level of the stats. And when you talk about missing stats, still is the per container related, right?
We're talking about the Prometheus. Yeah, they're the container stats. Yes, containers. Okay. But specifically the container stats that are present in Prometheus format on C advisor, but not in summary API. So there's kind of this small subset of stats. They're kind of the more advanced C group stats and stuff that we're talking about here. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks, David. That was a good background. A piece of my perspective is a while ago we had talked about doing it directly from the CRI to avoid performance hit of sanitizing and passing that data through protobuf. And something that David brought up was like there aren't that many more stats. I mean, it's like 10 to 12, uint 64s. So the overhead might not be as much as we originally worried about. But that's currently an unknown with this approach, and theoretically there could be some reduction in performance, but if it's, it shouldn't be huge. So that was some of the context which prompted us to get to, coalesce the idea of having the CRI directly emit it. I'm open to either direction. I think standardizing the metrics would help in actually functionally testing it. And it would make clear the responsibility of the CRI and needing to collect them, but not necessarily to emit them in the way that it sees fit, which could standardize across CRI implementations. If I were alone in making this decision, I probably still would have the CRI do it just because, to avoid that unnecessary hop. But I understand the motivation, and I'm willing to find a way that we can all agree and move forward. So I'm open and eager for, discussion and coalescing to an idea so that we can move forward with this.
So David, your proposal earlier, you mentioned that obviously we will add those missing stats, right? So first thing. So second thing, you mentioned that there's the two solution. Did you sounds like there's a two solution. One, it is you want to add the CRI stats Prometheus endpoint, but the problem it is the container already have Prometheus endpoint. So you are concerned about introduce another Prometheus endpoint. So another option you propose listed here, it is Kubernetes, which is I didn't get very clearly. You said okay, Kubernetes doing this. And then we collect off the still is the same as the CRI format per buffer, and then you convert it to the Prometheus, the Kubernetes conversion. So did I understand what you present correctly?
Yeah, so basically the idea is that today, if you call the /metrics/CAdvisor endpoint on Kubelet, you get Prometheus metrics that are actually collected by CAdvisor today on Kubelet. And so the bigger goal here is that for customers who are relying on that endpoint, we need to give them some alternative. So one alternative is that the same format will be provided directly by the CRI. So by Containerd, for example, or Cryo would serve that endpoint. That's one alternative. But then we need to figure out how to proxy that HTTP endpoint to the container runtime so that users can directly use the same endpoint. So that's one solution. The other solution is that we literally drop, instead of metrics/CAdvisor today being served by CAdvisor, instead it's served by metrics from the container runtime that we convert internally in Kubelet. So from the user perspective, they continue calling the same endpoint, but instead of those metrics being served from CAdvisor, instead they're actually being served from the container runtime, and Kubelet converts those metrics from the protobuf to Prometheus format. Does that make sense? That's sort of
this is totally makes sense, but I want to follow up questions. So my understanding is no matter what, we have to keep off the Kubernetes endpoints. The reason there's not CRI stats, right? So for customer, they have to get the CRI stats. They also have to get the machine node related stats. So anyway, they are going to scrap those endpoint, right?
Yeah, so today I think the metrics CAdvisor endpoint actually doesn't have any machine info. It's all container info. So for machine info, it's on the summary API, which today we already have served from CAdvisor and CRI. That's in the JSON format. So we have that today.
It is possible that there's some machine info in CAdvisor. I would double check that. I was under the impression there was. Regardless, whatever format CAdvisor is currently serving the metrics for on a node level, it'll continue to do so. So if there are still machine metrics in the Prometheus format coming from CAdvisor, then we would maintain that. We wouldn't. We have no intention of dropping that. It would just we would stop CAdvisor from collecting any container or pod metrics, so they would no longer be emitted because it would not have them.
But what was sense of keeping with CAdvisor when it will be easier to drop it completely from Kubelet?
So we don't have
basically.
For CAdvisor. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Peter.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say Sasha, it sounded like your audio was a little broken up, but it sounded like why not just drop the cAdvisor Prometheus metrics in general? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, exactly. Like my point is what, like right now, kubelet and like cAdvisor is one of the components inside of it is something what assumes like the whole picture of a machine, and it's not necessarily true. So it might be like some set of CPUs which is reserved for the whole system. It might be like runtimes will be restricted for some resources and so on. So the picture which cAdvisor presents inside kubelet might not reflect the proper machine. So if we are doing proper container metrics, then let's also report the overall state of runtime to the same endpoint. And
basically,
there is no sense to keep the cAdvisor on kubelet.
Well, those machine metrics will have to be collected from somewhere, and the whole process of this stats movement has been under the assumption that we're only moving the pod and container. I think that it's valid to reconsider cAdvisor's position in collecting the machine metrics for Kubernetes in general, but I think that we should address that separately and work through just the pod and container metrics, which the CRI kind of is more of a direct fit for fulfilling, rather than, it would be, I would find it kind of odd. I mean, not totally unrealistic, but kind of odd if the container runtime was also reporting information on, the general node. That seems a little out of scope, but I guess so it does with cAdvisor. So that's definitely worthy of conversation, but I think that we should consider that.
I agree. It can be a second step afterwards. Yes, you're correct.
The other thing, another thing just to mention is the metrics that are in cAdvisor now, we kind of have to consider as a stable API, even though it was never really documented as such, because there are people who are relying on them. So we need to basically have metric parity in Prometheus format somehow. And so we can't just go ahead and, drop those metrics from Prometheus because we need to basically consider those to be a stable API that would need a normal deprecation process if we were to change them.
Exactly, yeah. So and that's the whole idea behind what we're trying to do is figure out how we're going to support that /metric/cAdvisor Prometheus endpoint in the new world without cAdvisor collecting them.
I think my worry continues to be what the overhead is when we are talking about 250, maybe 500 pods on a node, and we are gathering the data over the CRI. So maybe if we just include that as
I think that makes sense.
Measure.
Yeah, I think it's something we need to make. I think with this whole effort, there is overhead because before cAdvisor's in process collecting all these stats, and now this is done by an external daemon, right? And then it has to be over gRPC. So whatever we do, whether we do the Prometheus endpoint here or there, I mean, regardless, the metrics will have to be sent over gRPC. So
I think if we step back, we were trying to solve this for something like Kata, right? So maybe does it make sense to have an interface that is collecting this metrics, and if we find out that the overhead over the CRI is too high, then we use cAdvisor for collecting native container metrics, but still allow a clean way to get it from the CRI only when needed. My worry is we don't regress the performance of gathering metrics for native containers, for special cases, to support special cases.
But no, there's another reason we start this effort. Another reason is just to see whether being used widely beyond Kubernetes. So we basically become to the bottleneck because the cAdvisor, we cannot grow cAdvisor because every time we grow cAdvisor, even we did a lot of refactoring in the past. So we have to add that dependency. We have to think, we have to, but every time when we're doing this one, it's like the nightmare for us. So then we start to think about the CRI and the container decry work, then we think about, okay, maybe we can rely on the CRI to do those stats and the container stats and the machine and the node, we could refactor that library, put that to the common library. That's the only things Kubernetes will link against. Like only like per node, per machine metrics. The rest of stuff, because the CI I'd rather grow too big today. So even we did keep doing those refactoring, make sure there's the better moduleness, but still not really help. But on the other hand, because that dangerous maintenance hell, so we slow down the CI development. A lot of people want to continue development CI. We kind of have to slow down because we really worry about the destableness of Kubernetes. And so that's kind of the problem originally we start, but the progress is so slow until we have the kata use cases and also CI kind of production ready. Then we just revisit this effort. I just want to share the context, not just for the, those where they also have problem there.
Yeah, the dependency issue is definitely huge. Like, for example, for containerd recently, we had to completely remove the Go module and include the source directly because of kind of some vendoring issues. So yeah, there's kind of constantly dependency related issues there. That's definitely one big source that we hope to fix with this effort. But yeah, but regardless, I agree that performance is definitely like something we need to consider. I don't think we'll have a good answer until we have some type of prototype that we can actually measure and play around with. So maybe we need to kind of proceed and try it out and kind of measure some stuff and see how it works. So.
Yeah, I guess, so when David reached out to me, reproposing the having it emitted over the CRI, I had the idea of, because we have Daniel here who, is ready and waiting to do some of this implementation. So my thought is maybe we go forward with the proof of concept, emitting the stats through the kubelet through CRI. So CRI passes the metrics up through the CRI protocol, and then kubelet emits it. And then we see, okay, are we regressing at all in performance? Like maybe the protobuf serialization is not going to be as much of an issue as we're worried about, and there are just bigger fish to fry, and it, the performance hit of 1% or even basically undetectable, then we don't really have to worry. If there is one, then at least, we have that data. We know, I bet a lot of the work that Daniel would have done on the containerd side to get those metrics in the first place would be useful in some future iteration. And we'll have some standard way of testing, and we could even possibly have a standard way of testing in the kubelet that the metrics that we want to be present are present, which could be useful in the future as well. So I think some of the work that would be done might not necessarily be wasted if we decide that this work is, worthy of going forward with, but, we later decide maybe the approach wasn't correct.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, without it actually kind of working, we won't be able to see the performance. Yep. So we need to try it out, I guess. Cool, thank you. So yeah, in terms of next steps, maybe what we'll do is we'll not actually make the CRI changes directly, but we'll kind of have a fork with the proposed CRI changes, and maybe some type of POC in containerd maybe will be the goal, and we can try to measure the performance there. And depending on that, we can kind of come back to SIG Node and report our progress. So maybe that'll be and
timing wise, we're in a good position to do that too, because we're at 1.25 is being finalized. The KEP freeze for 1.26 isn't for I don't know how long, a while from now, a little bit from now. So we have a little bit of time to kind of spoof it out, try it out, see if it works, and we can pivot for the 1.26 cycle if we decide that it isn't, like there's no way that we can make the performance be reasonable, sort of thing.
Makes sense. Cool. I think makes sense.
Okay, thanks, Peter
Thanks all.
and Daniel. Yeah. Okay. Next one is digital. Do you want to host? Do you want to share anything?
No, I think I'm good. I have the link for the PR in the notes. So I just want to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Dikshita. I work with David Venjan and Riven here on the group for GK Node. And I have my first PR for which I'm looking a reviewer. This PR is essentially for the KEP to promote external credential provider from beta to GA, and that required only to add a new E2E test that uses GCP credential provider to validate external credential provider. So I'm looking for a reviewer, and I already have David and Rivian on it, but I'm looking for another reviewer. And this PR essentially just adds a new environment variable. And if that environment variable is set, it would just install GCP credential provider and pass the path to the binary on the node, and the path to the config as well to configure this binary. And that is all. And once this PR has been reviewed, I'll be able to add the configuration in the test infra to run my E2E test. That is all that I want to talk about.
I think we'll have to wait till 126 opens since it's a graduation. It looks straightforward enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I can review. Yeah, I guess that's more from the GCP tax we have to pay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
That's all.
Thanks. So next, Vilay, and I know Vilay cannot be here, and he basically is just call out for the review. I already reviewed his the cap and approved, and I don't think about there's he sent out the API change. We discussed the separate API change and the scheduler change PR. I haven't seen that sent out yet. So Manu, maybe you have more updates on that one since you review largely his code.
No, I will have to take a look again, Don. I'll make a pass today and see where things
Okay.
are.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. Next, last topic, Peter.
Hey, I'm back. So this is part a process question and part a plea for review, but basically it's not clear to me what the best way is to get reviews of the general community when a PR is not like explicitly part of a KEP. Like this is a bug that Cryo encounters. It's not a very high priority one, but it's kind of a paper cut for users who it's kind of just a lot of annoying logs. It's existed for a couple of months now, and I've tried various methods of, I've tried poking people on GitHub and trying to get reviewers, and I feel, I probably haven't gone about it the right way, and I just want to know what a better way for me to have gone so that we could have had feedback a little bit sooner or something. Obviously now it's 125 freeze and it isn't something that's critical, so I doubt that it would make it in for that, but I'd like to probably make it in for 126 and possibly backport. So I just want to know that for the future. So all things considered, what is the best way to get these kind of reviews? Do we think? Do we want to define that sort of thing, or is it just kind of ad hoc, poke people as you can, however you can?
So I think we have this board here that Ilana had created, which has a list of all the outstanding PRs and review, and then through the approval. So like I'll just paste it here if there are like new folks on the call that are like looking to become reviewers or want to figure out where they can look for things needing review. And I think when there's a channel on the Kubernetes Slack or #PR reviews, that's where you can try to synchronously ping people if you're not getting attention. But I think in general, it's just like we have too many things coming in and not enough people looking at it. So only way will be to like grow more reviewers, and as people come in asking for reviews, like trade with others that are also looking for reviews. I have a PR, so maybe I'll review your PR, you review mine, and we both grow as reviewers.
Yeah, it's correct. We also, this quarter, we also have people on leave, right? So more people like no matter is the Alila and Sergey also on leave. So more people. So this is, we lost more review bandwidth. So, yeah.
Yeah, I also think just maybe pinging in the SIG Node Slack channel is a really good avenue I found to get, maybe seeing some people directly on there.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, that helps. I will do those things in the future.
Thanks to brought this issue. Yeah, that's is the knowing pain and for many quarters. So we need to grow more reviewer and yeah, maintainer. So that's all for today. And any other topic people want to brought up? Okay. Looks like that's all for today. And everyone got roughly half hour back to your life.
Yeah, we can maybe review PRs.
Thanks.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.